Hello, welcome to my channel. My name is Chaz. I am a freelance graphic designer as well as the artwork director at a brand called Full Violence. We specialize in merchandise for UFC fighters and sometimes boxers. One of my favorite designs that I've done was a piece for Charles Oliveira, which was inspired by a vintage Tupac t-shirt. If you know me, you know vintage tees are some of my favorite things in the world. I've gotten a lot of requests on Instagram to kind of break that design down and show everybody how I did it. Go ahead and follow me if you feel so inclined. You're gonna see that it's a pretty simple design. It didn't really take too much, and I'm actually pretty lazy in my style. So let's get into it. So to make this design, I used a template called Vintone by Duran Studios. It's super versatile. You can do a lot with it. You can achieve all kinds of effects. Although I do recommend you learn how Vintone works so you can duplicate the effects without the use of the template, because it can become like a crutch. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna run the Vintone every time you need to do something. So I would recommend you learn how dither patterns work, how halftones work, how diffusion works, and then how different blending modes work and whatnot. So as we see here on the front, I did like an earth, which is like one of the most common things in bootleg rap tees. I did this text, just Charles and then the Bronx, and then we have the photo. So let's go into the layers and see exactly how I did it. So as you can see here, I'm remembering that the first version of this, I actually used this photo, and for some reason they wanted me to revise and switch to this photo instead. I did not agree with it, but you know, client's always right. So I switched to this photo. Let's turn off the processing here. I guess I'm gonna break this down from the beginning. So the first step was adding in this globe. I think after that, I always check things with the processing on. I added a shadows and highlights adjustment just to get a little more detail out of that globe. You can see my settings here, and like, you know, nothing is ever perfect, especially when you're dithering everything. Like, you know, it's kind of just all, it's all taste and preference. After that, I added some stars in the background, and these stars, I think, let's see here. Yeah, I just added a layer and then painted them in with a brush. Nothing special, nothing impressive, just creates a little, fills up the empty space, the negative space, and kind of creates some atmosphere. Let's see. From here, okay, the text. What did I do here? I can tell you for a fact, I used the font Review, which is like a classic bootleg tee font from the 90s. I can't even tell you how I warped it. Okay, so I used the flag warp. You can see it up here. And then after that, what I did was, if you hit the box and then you right click, you can go to perspective. And then once you go into perspective mode, you can mess with these corners here, and they will, I'll just show you here. So I'm gonna right click perspective, and then I'm just gonna mess with these. Like they'll warp the perspective, obviously, and like, you know, that's all to taste and what you think is cool. But I find myself using this a lot. Oh crap. So after the text, I just added Charles right here. just to go over Oliveira. What font is that? That font is Barrett Street. Looking back, I probably would have used something different. Then I went ahead and added a photo of him. Let's do it without, so this is without any processing. The thing with like art that's all dithered, you know, all of this is getting half-toned or having some type of threshold thrown over it. You kind of don't have to be too much of a stickler about the selection of your whatever you're putting in there. I mean, obviously, like don't fuck it up. Don't do something completely awful. But like, if it's being dithered, a lot of the little details and whatnot aren't gonna show up. So, for instance, like this isn't a perfect selection, but once you dither it, it's fine for a bootleg tee. Mind you, the selections, if you look at old bootleg tees, the selections on those weren't good either. So, as usual with any type of threshold effect, once I apply it, I apply a shadows and highlights adjustment just to pull out a little more detail. I might mess with brightness and contrast, as you can see here. So next, the Bronx bottom text, which is like nothing special. That's just literally just the same font, Barrett Street, which looking back, I probably would have changed to something else. And then like a drop shadow on it, a stroke, an inner shadow, and a drop shadow, just to give it some depth. And then the branding at the bottom. Now let's get into the color for this one. So this globe was my first color layer because it's in the very back. So what I did, just a quick little tip here, I selected it like so, and then just went to my mask and painted it all in. Now obviously that painted all of Charles in here. So what I did from there, I just select Charles like so, go back to my mask and switch the color, switch the foreground color, and erase all of that blue from Charles's silhouette. Super easy, super simple. I find that just selecting objects makes painting so much quicker. So you definitely want to have that in your arsenal. In order to select, you're gonna, I know on Windows, you're gonna hold Control and then just click on the smart object itself, just like that. On Mac, it's probably Command, I don't remember. So next, I did Charles's skin, which is same process. I just selected, went to the mask of Charles and selected that. Make sure you select the mask. If it's already masked out, the object, select the mask, don't select the smart object. Because if you select the smart object, it's gonna just select where the photo would be. But if you select the mask, it's gonna select what you masked out. So I picked a skin tone, which looking back, I probably would have picked a different skin tone, but whatever, I was on a different screen then. Then I just painted it in. Now, I did that and then I realized painting it in just wasn't enough. I wanted to have some type of highlights there instead of just, you know. So what I did was in the mask of the color, I picked a brush, I went with, I wanna say soft round, and then I turned the opacity down like, I wanna say like 40 or something. And where I knew there would be highlights, I just ran over it, you know, to create a little, you know, some white dots there to serve as highlights, you know. So I did that wherever I thought, and this isn't like, there are better ways to do highlights in templates like these or in dither artwork like this, but this is just the way I did it at the time. There are better ways, which I will show you guys down the line. But yeah, I kind of just took my brush, my soft brush with low opacity, and ran it over where I knew light would be shining. So I knew it would be here, here, obviously here, based on, and it's good to turn the processing off and look at the actual photo too. You know what I mean? So if I turn the processing off, I can see there's light shining at these parts of his body. Next was the yellow, which is super simple, just using the concept of selecting things, you know. I selected the Oliveira here, and then I just painted it in, you know, and then the Bronx, just selected that and painted it in, super simple, you know, just stroke it right over. Same concept with the green, and I didn't even bother, like, obviously, because I can just paint the green over the yellow and they're not gonna clash or interact with each other in a weird way just because of the way this template is set up. Shout out to Duran. After that, obviously, like, there would have been colors on the Charles. So what you do is just select Charles, then go to each color layer and just, where is that? Just mask it out, you know, just remove that color until you have nothing but white on Charles, which, looking back, I probably would have done differently as well, but you know, it is in the past. Moving on to the back, which is definitely my favorite part of this shirt. It's just vintage, bro. It's just, you can't beat it. You cannot beat it. So here's what I did. So here's the back artwork without any processing on it. As you can see, I went ahead and used that same earth PNG on the back. Found this photo of Charles that I thought was really cool. I liked the way the light was hitting his face and everything. The exposure was cool. Found this one. I don't know where I found that, but put it in a ring, made some text at the top with his name. Here's the artwork with processing on. As you can see, it's pretty much the same process as the front. I didn't really do much different. If I turn off each color layer here, I can break it all down. So, like, started with the globe, then filled in his skin and did the same thing by kind of just soft brushing out the highlights for the shirt. It just dawned on me that some of you are probably gonna be wondering how I did this circle right here with him kind of sticking out of it, but he's cut off in the arm area. So I'll show you real quick. Oh, I started by making a circle with a black center stroke and a white outer stroke. From there, you're going to take your asset and then make sure it's above the circle. Make sure it's above the circle, then clone it. Make sure it's where you want it to be, then clone it. Then as it's above, I right click and then I go to create clipping mask, which should be right here. It says release clipping mask right now because obviously I have it in a clipping mask, but if it's not in a clipping mask, it's gonna say create clipping mask. Once you do that, it'll be in the circle like that. And I know you're thinking, well, now he's cut off. What am I gonna do? You cloned him, remember? So in the cloned version, all I did was just mask out, all I did was just mask out the parts that I didn't need. So we'll enable that again. So as you can see, so this is without the one that's clipped. All I did for the clone was just mask out everything that I wasn't gonna need, which is what was spilling over. Because all I wanted was his head popping out of the circle to create that, you know, that depth. And now we'll turn back on the mask one, and there it is, you know. And I did the same process here, just while we're here, of masking out the highlights. It's not the best way to produce highlights with dithered artwork, but I kind of like how it turned out. Next is the yellows, which is pretty simple. I think this font up top is Chalk, C-H-O-C. I can't remember, but it's probably chalk. This one, Brazil down the side, is Bauhaus. And this is just like a layer style that I threw together with other layer styles. It's just like, let's see if I can show you guys here. It's just like a plasticky layer style that I thought was cool. And then once I colored it, I knew there were shiny parts and highlights within it, so I just erased those just by, you know, turning off the processing, looking like where the highlights would be. I see that right here, I see it shiny on the corners. So I would just take a soft brush and erase the yellow there. Another thing to note is, as you can see, the stroke on this text is white, and you have blue in the background, and that at some point that blue would have had to spill over onto this because it's white and it affects everything that's white, basically. So my method for clearing out the blue so that white stroke could shine through is you're going to, selecting is a big part of this. So we're selecting again, always selecting. So you just go to that text and you select it, right? And it's gonna select it where the font actually ended, not where the stroke ended. So what I do is I go to select up here, modify, expand, and then I'll just expand that until that's about right. I'll expand it until it's free of everything, and I will go to my blue layer because blue is spilling onto my white stroke, or at least it was at one point. And I'm just gonna go here. Obviously the mask color is black, so I'm gonna use a black. Make sure this is set to black here. And I'm going to just, with a big solid brush. Don't even need to waste no time. Don't even, just straight down and get rid of all of that blue that would have been there. After that, I use the exact same principle with the green here. Same shiny plasticky font, and then just masking out the highlights to, you know, give it that shiny look. Use the same green here, and that was that. So here we see the final product after it's been fully processed and everything. Once it was done from here, I was able to separate the colors, which is super easy. You're just gonna select your magic wand tool, select the color you want to pull, and then hit layer via cut. And then you're gonna do that for every color. Just make sure your anti-alias and contiguous is turned off, and possibly even turn your tolerance lower. So that was how I did merch for Charles Oliveira. If you liked the video, please subscribe, like, comment, and if you have any recommendations of design styles or commissions I did in the past, please comment and let me know, and I'll do a breakdown video for those. Thank you. Peace.